Welcome everyone, my name is Miss Penna. I'm a museum educator. And you might be wondering, what is a museum educator? Well, there's a couple of different ways to define what I do. I'd like to say that a museum educator is an individual who teaches visitors about the variety of exhibitions, programs, works of art, and artifacts within a museum. Museum educators also use their wealth of cultural and artistic knowledge to engage visitors in thought-provoking discussions about the artwork and artifacts on display, broadening people's understanding and appreciation of cultural institutions like museums. Today we're going to be discussing the American Impressionist artist Mary Cassatt. Now, Mary Cassatt was born in Allegheny, Pennsylvania. She was one of 7 children and the daughter of a stockbroker and an heiress, so she came from quite a wealthy family. Mary was very close to her mother, who encouraged her children to be highly educated and to travel around the world. The Cassatt family visited Europe and traveled around Europe many times, visiting famous museums and art galleries, which inspired Mary Cassatt to be an artist from a very early age. Now, when Mary was 15, she decided to become a professional artist, and she was determined that art making would be how she made her living. And this was something that her parents disagreed with, but she persisted nevertheless, and she studied art at Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. But Mary soon grew frustrated with the academy. She realized very quickly that they did not give female artists the same opportunities as male artists. So she left school and she convinced her parents to let her move to Paris with her mother to continue studying art under the supervision of various different private tutors. And here's a Mary Cassatt quote that I love. "Oh, how wild am I to get to work. My fingers fairly itch." And Mary Cassatt was very dedicated to her work, as you'll see in just a bit. Now, once she was in Paris, Mary continued to study art, and she submitted many of her paintings to the Paris Salon, which was the big place to display artwork in Paris at the time. But her artwork kept being rejected, and she grew very frustrated. At one point, she even considered quitting art making altogether, but she decided to persist once again. In the late 1870s, Mary was invited by Edgar Degas, another artist, to display her artwork with a group of artists called the Impressionists. Now, the Impressionists created artwork that was very loose, very relaxed, and inspired by fleeting moments. In particular, they liked to study how the light changed throughout the day. They often painted outdoors, and they often painted scenes of nature. But Mary Cassatt's artwork was a little bit different from the other Impressionists because it focused on the themes of motherhood, women's everyday lives, and private moments at home. And throughout her career, she worked with many different mediums, such as oil paint, oil pastels, and printmaking. And many of her paintings have very gentle color schemes and soft brushstrokes. Here is one of her paintings that we will be taking a look at. It's called Young Mother Sewing, and it was painted in 1900. You can see it at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. From a lighting perspective, you'll notice that the light coming from the window is gentle and warm, illuminating the mother and child as they sit in this very warm and cozy domestic scene. The brushstrokes on the canvas are very soft and light, capturing the essence of soft skin and flowing fabric. And most important in this painting are the 2 figures themselves. You'll notice that the mother is focused on her sewing, not engaging with the child or with the people viewing the picture, while the child, on the other hand, looks directly at the viewer, giving the sense that we are interrupting a very peaceful moment at home that many people wouldn't see. Here we have a different picture by Mary Cassatt. This painting is called Little Girl in a Blue Armchair, and it was painted in 1878. And this painting is available to see at the National Gallery of Art. So the lighting in this picture is very dim and quite gray, But you can see that the little girl appears bright, as if she's being illuminated by a spotlight. And through this lighting, we are signaled to by Cassatt to really focus on the little girl as the main character of this painting. The brushstrokes on the canvas are very loose and expressive, adding texture to the fabric of the armchairs and really grounding us in all the textures and the sensations of the surfaces in the scene. And the little girl, as you can see, is sprawled out on the armchair, striking a very distinct pose. She kind of has one arm behind her head and the other arm kind of almost resting on her hip. And she has quite an interesting expression on her face. And different people have different theories as to what Mary Cassatt might have been trying to express through this little girl. But I'm curious to hear from you. What do you think that this little girl might be thinking or feeling in this painting? Here we have yet another mother and child painting. This one is called The Child's Bath from 1893, and you can look at this painting at the Art Institute of Chicago. Like in the previous picture, the lighting is quite dim, but the mother and the child appear slightly brighter than their surroundings, coming forward towards us in the composition. Unlike Cassatt's other paintings, the brushstrokes are very soft and gently layered on top of each other to evoke soft skin and crease fabric. When you focused on the figures and what they are engaged in, the mother is focused on washing the child's feet as they both look down at the child's feet. And we are given the sense that we are quietly observing a very intimate moment found within a daily task. One thing that you'll notice about Mary Cassatt's paintings is that she tends to depict ordinary, everyday tasks and chores and rituals that prior to her, many other artists didn't really take the time to paint pictures of. And it was really important for Mary Cassatt to paint pictures of these everyday scenes so that the people looking at her paintings, everyday people, particularly women, felt seen and reflected through her paintings and felt like their lives were worth painting. Here's a very interesting painting by Mary Cassatt. This one is called A Woman and a Girl Driving, and it's from 1881. This can be found in the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Now, the lighting in this painting is more striking than the others that we've seen so far. As you can see, the background is dark and it's moody. It looks like the figures are driving a carriage through a heavily wooded area or maybe a park that's densely populated with a lot of trees and bushes. But you'll also notice that the woman and the child are painted very brightly. So we know that they are the main focus of this painting. Once again, the brushstrokes are soft, but this time they're slightly unblended, almost to suggest movement. We feel like we can really see the scenery pass us by as we are riding along with these figures on their carriage ride. And the figures in this painting are quite interesting as well. As you can see, there are three figures. There's an adult woman, a small little girl, and an adult man. But the real focus here in this painting is on the woman and the child, particularly the adult woman who's seen here kind of driving the carriage, which was quite uncommon to see depicted in paintings at this time, as women often didn't drive carriages. So here we have Cassatt depicting a woman in a very powerful position, although doing something once again that's quite mundane, and we see the male figure in the background kind of taking a back seat, in this case literally. And finally we have the last painting, which is Breakfast in Bed, which was painted in 1897. This can be seen in the Huntington Art Museum in California. The lighting here is very soft and bright, suggesting that it's morning time. We can also get the sense that the light is coming from a window that is out of view. So we can't see it in the painting, but we can see how the light is hitting the faces of the two figures that are lying in bed. And here the brushstrokes are slightly loose, but they are soft in order to mimic the crinkled and twisted bed sheets. We see that the mother is waking up, right? Her eyelids are very heavy, suggesting that she's still sleepy, while the child is sitting up and ready to greet the new day, kind of looking at the coffee cup. The atmosphere is overall very casual and cozy. It's warm and it's inviting. And most importantly, it, like many other Mary Cassatt paintings, reflects the beauty of these little everyday moments that most people can relate to.